everyone, welcome back. We're going to be looking at homeostasis again today, looking at the eye and its function. So what we're going to look at is how the eye focuses on near and far objects, and some common sight problems, so short-sightedness and far-sightedness, and how those are commonly treated. We're going to start with a new key term here. The new key term we've got today is accommodation. Now, you might have heard of the term accommodation in terms of housing, so your accommodation is where you live, your house. But in biology, because we're strange and we like to take words and give them a whole new meaning, accommodation is to do with how light is focused on the retina, that part of the back. I'll show you a picture on the screen now. It's how light gets focused on that layer of cells in your retina in order for you to see images clearly. So the part of the eye that does all the focusing is the lens. So let's have a look at what happens when we're focusing on near objects and focusing on far objects separately, and then we'll use what we've learned from that to apply that to things like near short-sightedness and short-sightedness. Okay, let's start with seeing things up close. If you're able to see things up close, we say that you have short-sightedness. I'm going to draw a little diagram of the eye and put on the ray diagrams, which you might remember from physics, talking about how light travels and bends through objects. Because the lens needs to focus and bend that light to hit the retina in a certain way, the lens is actually refracting, causing that light to bend as it enters and as it leaves. And to alter the angle of that refraction in order to focus the image, your lens needs to change shape. So we're going to look at that in a bit more detail now. When we want to focus on something that is far away, what has to happen is the lens inside the eye needs to become thicker in order to refract or bend that light more for us to make stuff that is far away look clearer. It's not a fact that if we couldn't move our lenses, we wouldn't be able to see anything at all. It's just things would not be in focus. So what happens is the light will come in through the cornea, get slightly refracted, pass through the lens, get further refracted, and then it will meet on and be focused on your retina. So you ultimately want your light to end up hitting the retina at the back at any part. But to get there, the light can't just go straight through, otherwise it would not reach the entirety of the retina, it needs to be bent. In this situation, when you want to look at something clearly far away, your ciliary muscles will be relaxed, so that will stop them pulling on the lens and let it sort of go back to its natural blobby form. Those suspensory ligaments that attach the ciliary muscles to the lens become tighter because they're basically just holding them like a pendulum, the arm on a pendulum holding the pendulum bit at the bottom. So you get more refractions of that light as it passes through the lens. That's seeing things far away, so let's have a look at seeing things up close. If you're using a bit of logic, you can probably already guess that it's basically the opposite that happens. So let's draw the diagram and then I'll talk through it bit by bit. So the ciliary muscles this time, rather than being relaxed, contract. The suspensory ligaments actually get looser. This leads to the lens being pulled thinner. time if we draw the ray diagram, you'll see that the light gets bent slightly less, all for the ending goal of getting that light focused on the retina. I would suggest you get a copy of these diagrams down and try and learn just the sequence of events. You could draw them out as bullet points, but you would be expected in an exam to be able to interpret ray diagrams like this one to show how the light bends. There are common issues to do with the eye that you need to be aware of for your exams. We're mainly looking at far-sightedness and short-sightedness. They have proper scientific names. So on one side of this little mind map I'm going to make, I'm going to talk about myopia or short-sightedness, and on this side I'm going to talk about hyperopia or far or long-sightedness. Let's start with myopia then. Myopia means that you are short-sighted, as I've said, so you can't focus clearly on objects that are far away. The only sight you have is stuff that's not far away. Short-sightedness, I don't know. I actually have myopia myself, hence the spectacles. I'm going to try and just show you what my vision is like when I'm not wearing my glasses. Often when people have never worn glasses in their life, they don't really understand what it's like to wear glasses. I always say it's like being out of focus on a camera. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass my glasses over the camera that's above and just see if you can still read this. So that's my blurro vision, and that's what it's like if I had to wear my glasses. So what my glasses are doing are bending the light before it hits my cornea. So when it passes through my lens, it's focusing the right part. But we'll look at how eyesight is corrected in a little bit. So myopia is short-sightedness. You can't focus on distant objects. There are two main reasons why you might have or develop myopia. First one that can cause myopia short-sightedness is having a thicker or irregular shaped lens. If your lens is in a regular shape, what will happen is even when the lens is relaxed and you're trying to focus on something far away, the light is going to get refracted too greatly, so it won't focus sharply on the retina, which is what gives you your sharp vision. Another reason why you might have myopia is to do with the shape of your actual eyeball. Not everyone's eyeballs are perfectly spherical, I mean nobody's is, but some are more oblong than others. So you can have eyeballs that go up to sort of rugby ball shapes, and the longer your eyeball is, the more severe your myopia will be. What happens in this case is because the eyeball is longer, the light doesn't actually always reach the retina, it stops off a bit short, so that creates the blurriness. The second type of eye defect is called hypopia. No, hyperopia. Jeez. Hyperopia is the opposite of myopia. This is far-sightedness or being long-sighted. That means you can focus on stuff that's far away, but you can't focus very well on stuff that is up close, like reading, for example. There are two ways why you can develop hyperopia. And this is the one that's usually age related. That's why old people usually have trouble seeing things that are up close. The first one is to do with the lens, and in this case the lens can't stretch very well. It becomes stiffened. Your lens is usually like a, as I said in the last video, jelly-like, so it becomes too stiff that it can probably be So what happens here is, because the lens can't pull tight in order to refract that light more to focus on stuff that's far away, the light isn't bent properly, so you don't see things. The other cause of hypopia, oh god, I've said it wrong again, hyperopia, is another one to do with the shape of your eyeball. Rather than being squashed lengthways, a bit like a rugby ball shape, what happens here is they are squashed whatever other ways there is, so it becomes a bit squashed vertically. I'll show you the picture. So what happens in this scenario is the lens can still be tightened and loosened, but because the eye is too short, the light kind of misses the focal point on the retina where the light needs to go to make it nice and sharp, is sort of past the eyeball, so the light won't focus properly, and that's what makes it blurry. So that's the two common issues. What we're going to look at now is how doctors, or rather opticians, put those defects right. Eye problems, in terms of either having hypopia and myopia, are more common than ever before, and the treatments for them haven't really changed much until fairly recent times. So the main treatment for eye conditions is your good old glasses, or specular lenses, as they like to say in GCSE language. You need to be able to relate the type of sightedness with the type of lens that's used. So let's have a look at that first. In glasses, lenses come in two varieties depending on what type of sightedness you have. The first type of lens is a concave lens. This is the type of lens that's in my glasses, for example. What this does, or what all lenses do, is refract the light before it enters the eye. So when it enters through the lens and it gets refracted again, it's going to end up on the retina where it needs to be. It's all very clever. If you have hyperopia, your lens is the opposite shape. It's convex, sorry. So what happened in both scenarios? With your concave lens, the light is going to be focused onto your retina, but before it enters the eye, it gets refracted slightly. So when it goes through your dodgy lens or your strange shaped eyeball, it will end up on the retina where it needs to be to make that image nice and sharp. In the convex lens, same happens, but because your eyeball is too squished, or you're getting on a bit and your lens isn't changing shape as much anymore, the light needs to be refracted in a different way. That's why there's different shapes of lenses. The convex lens will make sure that light makes it to the retina rather than the focal point being beyond the eyeball itself. And don't forget, concave is myopia, convex is hyperopia. Another familiar treatment that works exactly the same way as glasses are contact lenses. Contact lenses work in exactly the same way as regular glasses lenses, but the lens itself is the sort of soft plastic, or you can get them made of glass as well, but they're a bit rarer. They float on the moisture on your eyeball just in front of the cornea. Onto some more nightmarish versions of treatment. First is laser eye surgery. Now, when everyone thinks of laser eye surgery, they think of either this or they think of this, and neither are true. Laser eye surgery is a medical procedure, yes, but all that happens, when I say all that happens, is there is a laser that's being shone onto the cornea that is reshaping it, so when the light passes through, it again refracts at the correct angle for it to be focused on the retina at the back. This only really works well for myopia and some of the conditions associated with hyperopia. The last treatment is fairly new. It's actually artificial lens replacement, or replacement of a lens from someone that has donated them after they've died. If you're feeling brave, you can look up footage of laser eye surgery as it happens, as well as some lens replacement, I'm sure, if you delve deep enough. It's not for the faint of heart, but it's not actually as bad as you think. There's no blood, it's not very squeamish. Depends on what sets you off, to be honest. That's it for the eye, and that's it for us today. Make sure that you've taken some notes and that you try the quiz that I'll put on Google Classroom, and I will see you all very, very soon.